Hey everyone, it's Pittico from Daydream Nation, and I've got Bicyclelegs back to the channel. How are you, Bicyclelegs?
Yeah, not doing too badly, Peter. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you as well. This is our second annual That Christmas show. And the theme of the show, Bicyclelegs, is we go back in time 40 years to the charts of December 1984, and we're going to do a Christmas countdown of the top 10 US, UK, and Australian singles of December 1984. Where did all the time go, Daniel?
I don't know. I was really, 1984, I was 13 years old. I was really getting heavily into music at this stage. So most
Absolutely.
most of these songs are near and dear to me. A few of them I did not know, and I had to go and listen to for the first time, and we'll talk about those when we get to the UK chart. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think it was sort of like having music shows like Countdown in Australia, where it was always an event at the end of the show. What was going to be in the top 10 singles? It was sort of like
yeah.
a cultural event, wasn't it, on a weekly basis? What was the number one? What was in the top 10? What's the number one album? But these days, I don't know about you. I wouldn't know what's in the charts. Would
Yeah.
you?
No, no, I wouldn't. And we did this last year with 1983. And the thing that I found fascinating then, and I found fascinating again this year as I was sort of preparing for this, was the differences between the UK, US, and Australian charts as far as like, a song was a hit in the US at this point, and then it would take a couple of months before it would be a hit in the UK, and then it would take another couple of months before it was a hit here, and so on and so on. So I always find that crossover really fascinating when we do these shows.
Absolutely. And it's a good opportunity for us to talk about music that probably we don't cover on Daydream Nation or on your channel. A little bit
Mm,
more pop, a little bit more crossover. So it's a good opportunity maybe just to speak about our love about some guilty pleasures. So without
yeah.
further ado, why don't we talk about the US top 10, and we'll go from 10 to 1 if you don't
Yep.
mind. All right, so number 10 in December 1984 was Cyndi Lauper and All Through the Night. What do you think of this song?
Uh, Look, that first Cyndi Lauper album, She's So Unusual, is an 80s classic. I love that album to death. This was like the fourth single, I think, off the album. There was um, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and then there was Time After Time, and then there was She Bop, and then there was this one. And it's kind of interesting how she went. She was sort of going like, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, big up tempo, fun song. Time After Time, introspective ballad. She Bop, big up tempo, fun song. All Through the Night, introspective ballad. So she was definitely going between the two sort of positions there. But I love this song. It's a cover version. I don't know the original, although apparently it's much more folky than the way she did it. But yeah, no, it's a really, really good song. I've always really liked this song, but I love the whole album. So
Yeah, I don't own the album. I'm quite familiar with it. It was just played all over radio, and it's one of those blockbuster albums where, we call a blockbuster because anything that had five or six singles that did kind of fabulously well is kind of a blockbuster. And I think Australia was a very big market for Cyndi Lauper. I
yeah,
saw her support Rod Stewart. Quite an unusual pairing, but it really worked well. And she is a dynamite live, and she's coming back to Australia next year, supported by the Veronicas, and she's doing a farewell tour. But, awesome live. I like this song a lot. Personally, I like probably True Colors. Is that the song? I like
mm,
that song a lot. I like her ballads. I think she's got a lot of soul and a lot of character, but she's a real personality artist where you can hear the song and you can just sort of tell you sort of tell what her personality is. So
yeah.
I think this is a pretty good start to the top 10. So there you
Yeah,
go.
and absolutely distinctive voice she has too. You can't mistake her for anybody else.
Yeah. And another thing we've got to say is that she hit success she wasn't young. She was like in her
Mm,
30s. She'd been around the block a little bit, you know. I think she had been in a few bands. So I think around this time she'd be in her early 30s. And that was the 80s was an era where there were a lot of pop artists that were a little bit older or middle aged. It was quite an interesting decade for music, and you know, a lot of artists getting their second career or getting their first break later in life, wasn't it?
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, the next one is "We Belong" by Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
This was a pretty big hit. What do you think of this song?
Yeah, and another really good one. We must give a shout out to our contrarians compatriot Jamie Laslow because he's like probably the biggest Pat Benatar fan I've ever met. And yeah, no, this is a really good song. It's sort of mid-tempo, a bit moody. It's got that boom, 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 rhythm to it, which I really like. But I mean, Pat Benatar, I don't own a lot of her albums yet. I'm on the lookout for them, but I mean, all the hits were ubiquitous on, radio and TV and all that sort of thing back in the day. And I don't remember ever hearing one of her hit singles that I didn't like. So yeah, it's a good song. It's a really good song.
Well, as we get into the mini minor through the car park, we've hit a bit of a road bump here, I'm afraid. I find this song a little bit at middle of the road and not a big fan of it. Get out the children's choir. It's a little bit twee. I've never been a big fan. I love Pat Benatar early stuff. First four albums, killer. But I think as her career advanced into the 80s and the 90s, she became a little bit more middle of the road and less cutting edge. So no, this is probably a negative for me, unfortunately. But a lot of people grooved on it, and yeah, I can understand. I think the hook it was the children's choir.
Mm,
Anything that has a children's choir and a little bit anthemic seemed to do well in the charts, and this certainly had a bit of a hook. And we'll see that we may be talking about this song in another top 10 list shortly. Okay, the next one, Wham! Wake Me Up Before You Go Go.
ugh.
How do you talk about this song?
Uh, this is, if I can do a little bit of a throwback to the show we did on my channel with John Farnham and Whispering Jack, this was just one of the most overplayed songs in 1984. But and I got so sick of this song so quickly. Um, I can listen to it now and I can hear the sort of joyous bop that it is, but it takes me back to 1984 and hearing that song 1,000 times and just being sick to death of it. I don't think I'm ever going to quite get over that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was never a huge Wham fan. I liked George Michael's solo stuff a little bit better, but Wham was a little bit too teeny bop. Even for me as a 13-year-old, it was a little too teeny bop. But again, we'll find there's a different Wham song in the UK charts that we'll be talking about. This one had already been and gone in the UK charts by this stage. So,
Yeah, look, I think this song got overplayed. I'm not a huge fan of it. I found it a little bit Donny Osmond cheese, a little bit bubblegum for me. It's very teenage. The Wham rap, you know, those early
mm,
Wham songs, Wham I Am, that had a little bit of a charm. George Michaels was an outstanding singer. Solo material, he could sing the telephone book and it make it compelling. But this song, it's a bit lightweight.
yeah,
But it was a huge
absolutely.
hit all around the world, wasn't it?
Oh, massive. It was number one here for weeks.
Yeah, but yeah, it's bubblegum. Bubblegum. Um, Number 7 is Cool It Now, new edition. I'm not terribly familiar with this song. I had to play it a few
No,
times. Are you familiar with this song?
no, can't say I am. Really, I mean, here in Australia, I'm pretty sure the only big hit for New Edition was Candy Girl, which was very big. But yeah, again, not my style. I wasn't a big fan of Candy Girl back in the day. And this one didn't really do much for me either. Um, this is like teenage Bobby Brown, and you know, I was never a big Bobby Brown fan when he went solo either. So, I mean, definitely gives off like an 80s version of the Jackson 5 vibes. But yeah, no, if I was given a choice between the two, I'll take the Jackson 5 every day. Thank you very much.
Well, funny thing you should say, because when I played the video clip for New Edition, Bobby Brown was the next video that came afterwards, straight
Mm.
after it. So, yeah. Look, it's a little bit lightweight, a bit forgettable, but, hey, we're not the designed audience, are we?
Well, when I was 13, I probably was, but it wasn't what was doing it for me back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now we go to number 6, and it's No More Lonely Nights by Paul McCartney.
Yeah. You know, the album this comes off is Give My Regards to Broad Street. It was the soundtrack for the movie he made. The movie, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I don't remember it being very good at all. The soundtrack has a lot of like re-recorded Beatles songs and things like that, which again, I don't see the point of, not a big fan of them. This song, however, is one of Paul's greatest singles of the 80s. Just a wonderful, majestic song with a beautiful guitar playing from one Mr. David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. So, yeah, no, this song's a triumph for me. I love this song to death.
I agree with everything you've said. I think it's really good. I've never seen the movie. I should, as a curio. I think Ringo makes an appearance, and Barbara
Yes,
Bach, and is Phil Collins
yes.
in it?
Yeah, I don't know about the last one, but yeah, Ringo and Barbara are definitely in it.
I think it's a nice song. I think it's probably not top shelf Paul McCartney, but it's right up there. It's nice.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is number 5, and the Sea of Love, the Honey Drippers.
Yeah. I love this song. And when this first came out in 1984, I had no idea that this had anything to do with Led Zeppelin and, that sort of thing. I didn't know that Robert Plant was singing it. And although I should have recognized it because I was a big fan of his song Big Log when that came out as a single. Loved that song. But, and I didn't know Jimmy Page was on it and any of that stuff. 13 in the mid 80s, I really didn't know anything about Led Zeppelin just yet. So that would come a little later in the decade that I would discover them. But this is a lovely sort of homage to that sort of 50s rock and roll. So yeah, love this song.
And nice crooning vocals of Robert Plant, aren't they? It's a really
Yeah,
nice,
lovely.
it's a nice cover song.
There was never a volume two though. Like the volume one was the EP. I think there's 4 songs on it, and there was never a volume two. So shame that.
Indeed. All right, for I Feel For You, Chaka Khan. What do you think of this song?
Yeah, great song. Great song. Um, I mean, she's got a great voice. The song is hooky, it's funky. You've got Mel from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five doing the rapping at the beginning. Um, yeah, no, I mean, this was the first time I'd ever heard Shaka Khan. And yeah, I always loved this single. I don't think I bought it back in the day, but I always loved hearing it on the radio and seeing it on TV and stuff. So yeah, yeah, lovely song. Really, really, really love it. A lot of
And it's a cover song of an early Prince.
yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I really think Chaka Khan's got a lot of sass, charisma, and this is just the
Mm,
perfect vehicle. Prince was just wonderful in writing for people. I don't think he wrote for Chaka Khan, but it was just a cover version that she made her own.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, number 3, Like a Virgin by
Yeah,
Madonna.
I've got to admit, I was not the biggest Madonna fan back in the day. Um, but I mean, there was a little bit of pressure. We'll talk about that when we get to number two, too. There was a little bit of pressure about, as a 13-year-old, peer pressure about what you were allowed to like, you know, and that sort of thing. So, but listening to it now, I think it's a great song. It's a lot of fun. I, of course, right from the beginning was a huge Weird Al fan, so I loved his Like a Surgeon, which was his parody of the song. But yeah, no, it's a really, really good song, and it's a great sort of Pat Leonard production too. So,
Isn't it Nile Rodgers?
oh yeah, you could be right. Yeah, I'm thinking of the next album. Forgive me.
And it's got that Nile Rodgers guitar sound, the chaka, you know.
Mm,
Um, yeah, he tells an interesting story that originally they were going to do Material Girl as the first song, and it got talked out of it. And Like a Virgin was the song that was the lead single off this album, which paid off in spades. Wild Boys,
Yeah.
Duran Duran, number two. Gee, the US really liked Duran Duran, didn't they?
Well, this was, the beginning of or was probably smack bang in the middle, actually, of the um, second British invasion. And Duran Duran were right at the head of that. So, but I was talking about with Madonna, Duran Duran, you weren't, as a 13-year-old boy, there was a lot of peer pressure not to like Duran Duran because they were quote unquote a girls group, you couldn't like them. Girls like Duran Duran. But I always really liked Duran Duran right from the beginning, right from I think the first song of theirs I heard was Planet Earth. And I was a fan right from the get-go. This song, they're kind of trying to do something a little, I don't know if avant-garde is quite the right word, but a little experimental. They're trying to, this is not a simple pop song. It's getting quite out there, bit sort of almost krautrocky at places, there's not a simple beat to it. It's quite, yeah, experimental for certainly for a pop band.
I like it. I think it's avant-garde. It's different. Andy Taylor was a borderline. He was a closet metalhead. And
Mm.
when Andy and John did the Power Station, they really got their metal thing going. So, I think Andy always felt that he wanted more guitar and Duran Duran. Good song, though. And yeah, look, the US just loved them. I think arguably they were bigger in the US than they were in the UK.
It may be like by a hair, but yeah, they were huge all around the world at this
Stadium
stage
act.
of
They
their
were a huge
career.
stadium
Yeah.
act. All right, and now the final one was number one was Out of Touch by Daryl Hall and John Oates. I
Uh,
guess I guess they're a bit out of touch at the moment, aren't
well, with each other, yes. But oh, what a great song, Great, Christmas number one. I love this song. I bought the album when it came out. After hearing this song, it was like, this was back when I had to save up my pocket money and I'd buy one album a month. That month, it was probably January of 1985. The album I bought was the album that this came off. So, um Big Bam Boom, that's what it's called. And yeah, no, it's a terrific song. It's one of my absolute favorite Hall and Oates singles. I mean, the follow-up Method of Modern Love probably got some traction, but after that, like after this album, yeah, they still sold ton of records in the US, but after this, they really didn't sell a lot of records here.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful sort of song. And I want to throw a question to you. What's your favorite Hall and Oates song? Just to put a little bit of a Christmas question, throwing it at you.
Oh, this one would be right up there. Absolutely. Um, but you can't go wrong with any of those great singles. Sarah Smile is great. She's Gone, Rich Girl.
I can't go for that.
Yeah,
And Private Eyes. Gee,
yeah,
they had a run of hits, didn't they? Just I think
yeah.
between 1979 and this song, hit after hit, they just had the
Mm,
magic dust. And yeah, but apparently they just didn't like each other, and separate
mm.
limos, and yeah, rest is history. Well, there you go. What do you think? Pretty strong US top 10, not
Yeah,
too
for the
bad.
most part, it's pretty solid.
No novelty hits.
No.
And the reason why I'm saying that, folks, is when we go to the UK, they love their novelty hits. They love
Mm,
and there's always been this sort of phenomena. What's going to be the number one hit in the UK? They even
mm.
actually have tote boards in the pub, bookies taking money. So I don't know. Let's have a look at
Yeah.
it. Is there any Cliff Richard? Is there any status quo? So I'll bring up the charts and we will go to the top 10 and we will start off with oh jeez, you know what's coming, mate.
Yeah.
Black Lace with Do the Conga. These guys should have been locked up for crimes against popular music with the
Yeah.
what was that song,
Argadoo.
oh jeez whiz.
I mean, that song was a hit all around the world, Argadoo was, and it was possibly the most annoying song of the 80s. And that's saying something because there was some pretty stiff competition. But I loathe and despise Argadoo. I didn't really know this song until we were preparing for this show. This is very much in the Argadoo um, mold, but less memorable. I mean, the one thing you will say about Argadoo, Argadoo is an incredibly annoying song, but it's memorable. This is an incredibly annoying song, but less memorable. So, but yeah, no, it's Drek. It's terrible.
It's shocking. So I won't say much more than what you've said. I agree with every word you've said. I'm not going to be contrarian in any shape or form. Number 9, the wonderful Paul Young, when he had his
Yes.
voice.
Mm,
Everything must change.
yeah, this is a really good song. It's one he co-wrote too, because he did a lot of cover versions. But this is one that he co-wrote. So it's a really good song, although I feel like I was listening to it again today, and I do feel a little bit like it's almost like a practice run for every time you go away. So, which would be an even, that was a monster hit for him, and that was a Hall and Oates song. So, um, but yeah, no, everything must change. He sings it beautifully. I watched the clip for it today, and he's got a rather impressive mullet in that clip.
Didn't
But
we all? Maybe you
yeah,
didn't, but I did.
no, it was probably a couple of years down the track before I grew my mullet. But yeah, no, it's a really good song.
Yeah. And he always used to wear these tracksuit pants with a stripe. I don't know,
Mm,
every single song. Um, I love I love Paul Young. I love this era. He had this wonderful northern soul voice, smoky, and it's just one of the tragedies that his voice is completely packed it in. I don't know if you've
mm.
seen a lot of more recent stuff. He's actually resorted to actually miming against his backing tracks. So I saw
No,
this
that's
very
sad.
unfortunate festival in Italy, and he had all the backup singers, and he's actually miming because you can tell it's an absolute replica of the song as it was released in the 80s. So it's a tragedy that your life is your voice, and if you lose that, what have you
Mm,
got?
yeah,
Anyway, this is a wonderful song, and I just love his voice. And No Palais, is it No Palais?
yeah.
And yeah, I just think he's great. Great interpreter. And you know the funny thing where he went to number one with that Hall and Oates song, he played Live Aid in America, and that really propelled him
Mm,
to all the mums and dads and the broader audience, and that really assisted him getting to number one in America through Live Aid
yeah.
and playing America, not in England. So that was quite canny. So, all right, well, that kind of talking about that makes me forget about Black Lace, but then oh, another good one. Number 8, The Riddle by Nick Kershaw.
Yeah.
What do you?
I love Nick Kershaw. Wonderful artist. I was a big fan of his back in the day. His first two albums both came out in 1984. So, and The Riddle is one of my favorite singles of his. I love it. It's really, for a pop song in 1984, it's actually surprisingly complex the way it's written. It's quite an interesting chord progression and melody that he uses. The lyric is deliberately cryptic. He sings it great. The arrangement's wonderful. It's Nick Kershaw at his best.
Yeah, and I got to meet him. He had a co-headlining stint in Australia with Go West, both wonderful bands. It was a wonderful night, and he's a lovely chap, and got him to sign the first two Nick Kershaw albums. And look, I really think he could have broken big in America, but he was on the wrong label. He was on
Mm.
Music Crematorium of America. Hello, Davey. Cretton. But he was on the wrong label, Bicyclelegs. If he was on Sony, CBS, or WEA, he would have been a superstar. And I mean, you look at footage in Live Aid, he was holding his own, even though he fluffed the lines to one of his songs. You could still see he was quite comfortable on that stage. But this is a wonderful song. I love that little Baroque
Mm.
keyboard line. And you're right, it is very complex. And would that be fair to say this is the last hit he had commercially?
Um, no, I think the second single off this was Wide Boy, and I think that
Oh,
was a pretty
right.
big hit
Yes.
too.
Yes, yes. After that, and then it, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of struggled. Right. I'm looking at number 7. You can pass if you want. Another
No,
rock and roll Christmas by Gary Glitter.
I subjected myself to this song this morning. Um,
And he was still a
so
thing in the 80s. He was still bringing out
well,
his wig and the mascara.
well, that's the thing. I actually did a little bit of research on this. This was the first top 10 hit he'd had in the UK for 9 years.
They always like a
So
comeback story at Christmas, don't they?
yeah. And they love a Christmas song. You know, we're talking about them taking bets at the pub for what's going to be the Christmas number one and all that sort of thing. This didn't make it that far, thank goodness. But you know, it's a terrible, terrible song. Even if Gary Glitter had not turned out to be the truly reprehensible human being that he is, this would still be an appallingly bad song. So,
You know what I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for the Gary Glitter Band because
mm,
they were a crack band in the glam rock 70s. And, basically their whole livelihood and contribution to those wonderful albums has just been erased because of this monster.
yes,
So I feel really sad for them. There'd be a way that they could get recognition. The songwriters, the people that created the Sonics, rock and roll still gets played to this very day in a lot of American sports
yep.
stadiums and on shows. But look, getting on point, this is a terrible song, and yeah, I can only fathom that the English love a comeback story.
Mm,
But it's like getting Daryl Summers in the charts. That's just an Aussie joke.
yeah.
All right. This is an interesting one. I've never
Mm,
heard of them. It's slightly novelty, but the band itself, I think they're kind of a little bit punky. Toy Dolls, Nelly the Elephant. What's your
yeah.
make? What do you make of this one?
I
Number.
heard this song for the very first time preparing for this show. And I watched the clip for it, and the first time I was watching it, I was just like, "What the hell am I looking at? What the hell am I listening to?" It's definitely a novelty song, 100% a novelty song, but it's like, yeah, it's got like a bit of a punkiness to it, but
It's
it's kind of
spiky.
like, but it also it struck me as kind of like a a rock like a music label guy's idea of what punk is rather than an actual punk's idea of what punk is.
It's a bit yobbo punk, isn't it? You can imagine these
Yeah.
guys being lager louts in the pub.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I don't know anything about toy dolls, so we'll get
Mm.
people throwing comments. You guys don't know what you're talking about.
And we
But it's
don't.
yeah, obviously. But the chorus it's got that lager lout chorus in the sense that you can imagine that they've got their pints of beer and they're going Nelly the elephant, and getting the
Yes.
beers and going left to right and getting progressively more sozzled. Did you get that vibe? It's got
Oh,
like a drunk.
absolutely.
It's a sozzled get drunk sing along
Yeah.
at midnight song.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got those gang choruses, those gang vocal choruses. Yeah, I absolutely could imagine like pissed guys in a British pub singing this off key at the top of their off the top of their heads and
Yeah.
yeah.
I get drunk, I get up again, I get that sort of thing.
Uh,
But I, I don't think I've ever heard this song. It didn't translate. It didn't come down to
no.
Australia in any shape or form. Anyway, definitely a little novelty, but a very strange novelty one. All right, we get to the top 5, and sanity sort of prevails with the wonderful Frankie Goes to Hollywood and The Power of Love. Now,
Mm,
Mr. Bicyclelegs, they had 3 number ones in a row. That's phenomenal.
mm. Yeah, not only that, but it was their first three singles. I think that's the first time that had ever happened in the UK. Even the Beatles didn't do that.
I think that may be
So
a record still.
probably. But yeah, no, this is and it's a complete change of pace, this song from their first two, Um Relax and Two Tribes are really sort of up tempo, high energy, synth pop with that, wonderful Trevor Horn walloping production. This is beautiful and lush. It's a ballad. It's not actually a Christmas song, but everybody thinks it is because of the film clip. And that was done deliberately to try and get them a Christmas number one. It ended up peaking a little too early for Christmas. So yeah, no, it's a wonderful song. Really, really like it. And that whole Welcome to the Pleasure Dome album, absolutely fabulous.
And I think it needs to be remastered or bring out as a reissue. I've heard a whisper that they're going to do something really special, bells and whistles, because I think that's the crown jewels of the Trevor Horn ZTT or Zum Tum Tum production, isn't it? It's just a
Yeah.
masterclass. But I agree with everything you say. It's lush, it's cinematic, and I think it had a wonderful film clip. It was like the Jesus and Mary and the three wise men. Even though the lyrics didn't align with it, as a youngster watching it, you kind of believed it was a Christmas song.
Mm,
So it did the trick. So, like a Virgin, number
yeah.
4.
We've already talked about this, haven't we? Great song. They're probably, again, the sort of difference in the charts. This is probably going up the UK chart just as it's coming down the US one. So, yeah, no, I mean, we've already talked about what a great song this is. So,
Yeah, and I like the guitar sounds. It's very clean. It's a very
mm,
clean guitar sound to it, and you've got that synthy bass. It's got a danceability, and look, as I said, as a youngster, I found Madonna quite sexy, and I think it's a very sexy song, and
mm,
understandable how this became a hit all around the world, and it's probably the signature song for Madonna. But interesting that you like this song a lot more than you did in the day. It's one of those
yeah,
growers.
yeah. I think it was the 13-year-old and not having permission to like Madonna and that sort of thing. So,
Do you have Madonna in your album collection?
I don't. I need to rectify that.
Yeah, where would you start out of interest? Would you go to the Immaculate, or would you look at
No,
buying? Yeah,
I'd probably look at getting those first three albums, the
yeah,
self-titled, Like a Virgin, and True Blue. I think to me, that's what I like best about Madonna is those early albums.
yeah. Ray of Light's pretty good when she
Mm,
got into the dance stuff. But her later album's not so flash. But okay, there you go. Now, number 3. This is another oddity. I've never heard this song before, and
oh, haven't you?
Paul McCartney is allegedly on it
Mm,
because it's not really front and center. And I did watch the film clip, and I found it a little bit of an ordeal. I don't know. What do you think about this?
come
Wheels
on.
down together, Paul McCartney and the frog chorus.
This was a song that was born out of Paul McCartney's love for Rupert the Bear. And he was originally going to make a whole movie, whole animated movie on Rupert the Bear. He bought the film rights for it and all that. Bought him back 1969 when he was still in the Beatles. Um, and what we ended up getting was just that film clip, which I love that film clip. It gives me a lot of Love Is All vibes, the
Yes, the butterfly ball. I got that. I
yes.
got that vibe. Yep.
So, and I think the song is charming. I look, it's not the most substantial thing that Mac has ever done, but it's charming and it's meant to be for children. And I think I like it. I remember hearing it at the time. Yeah, I think it's really, really nice.
Yeah, I guess I don't have any association with it. And being a cranky old 57-year-old, I find hard to sort of get an attachment of sorts with it. So I might abstain. Look, I'm not really that fussed on it, but that is okay. Number 2, Last Christmas and Everything She Wants, Wham. So that's like a double A
Mm,
side. That's not too
yes.
bad. That's not too bad. What do you think?
I mean, Everything She Wants isn't a bad song.
It's got a bit of groove,
Yeah,
bit of a 60s
but
feel to it.
but Last Christmas, my son and I disagree on this song because he actually thinks it's not that bad a Christmas song. I don't like it at all. I've never liked it.
Loathe or
Um,
just don't like?
yeah, loathe might
Loathe
be a
is
little
like
strong.
completely hate,
No,
or
no,
you.
look, I'm not going to put this on like I'm not going to
Mariah
put this on the
Carey,
same level as another rock and roll Christmas, but
or yeah,
um, look, there's a reason there's a whole Christmas game about trying not to hear this song. You know, the whole Whamageddon thing in December. But yeah, it's cheesy. Um, whether it's good cheese or bad cheese is in the eye of the beholder. To me, not great cheese for me, but you know, I can understand why people like this song even if I don't.
I'm going to go contrarian. I don't mind it.
Mm,
It's got a whimsy about it. It brings me back to when I'm 13. Not that I ever owned a Wham album, but you know, the girls and everyone at school around me had this were into them, and this was a huge song. So yeah, I don't mind it. All right. So number one could be potentially a critic proof type of song because it's Band Aid. Do They Know It's Christmas?
mm,
Which was written by Midger and Bob Geldof and really kicked off the whole Live Aid thing. What do you
yeah,
think of this song?
I love it. I loved it at the time. I still love it now. I've talked about this on my own channel. I've made over the years 13 different Christmas compilation albums on just burnt CDs that I used to give to family and friends instead of Christmas cards. Disc one, track one, Do They Know It's Christmas? It was always going to be the first one that I ever picked. I know a lot of people like to crap on this song. Uh, I know that even Bob Geldof is not overly fond of it as a piece of writing, or no, maybe Bob Geldof is, but Midge Ure definitely is not. He's not super proud of this one as he is with some of his Ultravox stuff. I love this song. I love the heart it has. I love the sound it has. It's well produced. You know, it's got Phil Collins on drums, so that's always a great, thing to have on any song in the 80s because Phil Collins to me is still one of the best drummers ever. Yeah. No, I unabashedly love this song.
Yeah, why do you think Midge doesn't not proud of this?
I don't think
What's your take on that?
I think just purely from a musical point of view, he doesn't think it's, I don't know, as sophisticated or whatever as some of his other writing. So,
Yeah, I like it. I think
mm,
everyone got in the act. Australia had its version, Canada,
yeah,
um, probably Greece and Italy did their own version.
I may get some of our American viewers offside with this, but I think this is 20 times a better song than We Are the World.
I agree with you. All right, well there you go. So summation of the British top 10. It's a bit shocking in
Peaks and
some area.
valleys.
Yeah,
There's some high
swings and
highs and some very low lows.
swings and roundabouts. All right. Let's talk about the Australian top 10. We got
Yeah,
a 3XY radio chart, didn't we?
yeah. So 3XY is, for people who don't know, is a radio station in Melbourne, AM radio station. They were sort of like the big, I don't know what was the big one in Sydney back then, the big AM radio station that played pop.
Triple M
Mm,
on FM was probably the big
yeah, yeah.
one.
But the big AM radio station here was 4IP. So, that's the chart we would get would be the 4IP chart. But yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. These charts would be similar, if not exactly the same, between Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne.
Yep. All right. So we'll start off with number 10, Smooth Operator and Sade.
And isn't Sade a smooth operator indeed? I mean, I love this song. It is smooth with a capital smooth. It's just wonderful. That saxophone. Did you ever, like, I know way ages ago you did a show about saxophone songs. Did this one come up? Because if it didn't, it really should have.
I
Um,
don't think it did.
oh, well, there you go.
No.
Um,
Low hanging fruit. We might do another two. That was with Todd Evans. Hi, Todd.
yeah. So yeah, no, it's wonderful. It's smooth, it's silky, it's just, yeah, sinuous. Love it.
I think not much more to say. I love Sade. I think this is wonderful. I saw her live about 10 years ago. I won't even say she's a guilty pleasure. I just love her vocals. She's
Mm,
wonderful. All right, number 9, Sea of Love, Honey Drippers again.
yeah. Again, we've pretty much covered this one already. We both agree it's a really, really good rendition of an old song. So, yeah.
This is an interesting one. I'm Only Shooting Love by the Time Bandits. I think we were one of the only regions that broke this band. They were
Mm.
in Holland. I don't think it charted anywhere else in the world, not in the UK or the US. What do you think of this song?
Yeah, I didn't know if I knew this one, but when I went to play it back, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. It was one of those ones that you get lingering in the back of your head, and then when it gets played, it sort of, charges those old memories. I quite like this song. It's disco. To me, when I was listening to this, it sounded like it could have come from 1979 rather than 1984.
It's a
It
bit
definitely had that.
funky. It's funked up though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's definitely disco. Um, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. There's some great disco music. There's some awful disco music too, but I'm not one of these, 100% disco sucks kind of guys. So, yeah, no, listening to it, I remembered it and I thought, yeah, I quite like this.
Yeah, it's unusual. They actually did a club tour of Australia. Isn't it funny that some of these bands that don't chart in the major territories and they somehow break in Australia? And this band
Mm.
ended up doing a pub and club tour. But I like it a lot. I tend to think it's more funky, but yeah, it's a dance floor hit. So I like it
Mm.
a lot. The next one is the wonderful dynamic hypnotic soul kind of feeling. I've got a feeling you might like this song.
I love this song. I actually just picked up their one and only album. Like they only did one studio album. They did a live album and a couple of EPs, but this is the only studio album they did, which is called Take You Higher. And yeah, it's great. It's soulful. It's that sort of blue-eyed soul, really, isn't it? Dynamic Hypnotics. And again, lots of really nice sax playing and horns and that sort of thing. Lead singer's voice can be a little bit of a acquired taste, I think. I
You don't like
like it, but
you don't like Continental Rock?
no, I love it, but I can understand why some people don't. Like some people might listen to it and I don't mean this in a rude way or anything. They just might think it's a little fruity, it's not very rock and roll and that sort of thing. So but I love his vocals, so yeah, no, I think this is a great song. I loved it back in the day and I still love it now.
I like the follow up. What's the follow up song?
Oh, now you're really testing my memory. No, I can't think off the top of my head.
Yeah, I like this song a lot. I like Continental Rob. I liked his follow up band called the Mighty Reapers. They used to have a residency in Balmain, and I used to live in the inner city of Sydney and see them on a weekly basis at the Cat and Fiddle Hotel every Sunday. Just playing that blue-eyed soul and R&B. So, but yeah, it's really funny that this album was sort of quasi-successful, but only one album. All right, so we go to number 6 in the Wild Boys, Duran Duran. A lot of crossover here, haven't we?
Yeah, we're going to have a few coming up that we've already talked about, but yeah, I mean, again, really good song, kind of experimental for Duran Duran. You could tell they were kind of busting to get out of that sort of new romantic uh straitjacket that they'd been put in. They wanted to do other things. They wanted to get funkier, they wanted to get weirder. And they would definitely do that with sort of upcoming albums. So,
So just to give a little bit of a spoiler, a lot of the songs from here to number 1 are kind of crossovers and we've spoken about. So you can see that, yeah, we're sort of following what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere. So
mm,
um, number 5 is Out of Touch, Hall and Oates, which I
great
sort of
song.
said that great song. So that was the big hit, and I love it. And probably their last commercial success in Australia. Number 4,
Mm.
We Belong, Pat
Yeah,
Benatar. And
we
you've
kind of
waxed,
disagreed on this one when we talked
yeah,
about it in the US charts. I think I
yeah,
like it better than you do. So,
absolutely. Now, Caribbean Queen. We haven't spoken about that. Billy Ocean.
yeah, number 3 on the 3XY chart. This was his first big hit here in Australia. He would have more and bigger ones. I'm thinking of songs like Suddenly and Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car, which I've always found that song a bit annoying, but um Caribbean Queen, that's a good song. Um
He actually did have a hit in the late 70s called Love Really Hurts Without You. Love
oh
Really
yes,
Hurts
yes.
Without You. So
Yes, I know the
he's been
one.
around for a while. He's a
Mm,
70s throwback, I think.
yeah. And then though he would also do that song from the oh, was it Jewel of the Nile? That like when the
The
going
going
gets tough.
gets tough and the tough get going. See, we're getting into sing-alongs now.
Yeah,
So when the folk are watching this at 2 o'clock on a Christmas day, they can get the eggnog out and sing along with
yeah.
Bicycle Legs and
One
Peter.
of my one of my favorite misheard lyrics in that song too, because when they say going gets tough, I always heard that as going gets stuffed.
Well, there you go. It depends where you live in Australia, I guess.
Yeah.
No way get, yeah, you know the song.
Mm,
All right, I feel for you, Chaka Khan. Love this
yeah.
song. I love
Yeah.
it.
It's just great, isn't it? Funky, and I love Mel Mel on it too because I was never a huge rap guy, but I always loved Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Loved the message, loved White Lines Don't Do It, all that sort of stuff. So to hear Mel Mel on this song doing the Chaka Khan, let me rock you, Chaka Khan, I love that bit. So
And the
it's a real
arrangement's just
hook.
perfect. It's just perfect,
Mm,
the arrangement. And the number one is Like a Virgin by Madonna.
yes.
So three times.
Yeah.
So
She's the only one that appears in all three of them, I think. So just shows what a megastar she already was at this stage.
absolutely. And the number one hot album on 3XY of Like a Virgin. Number
Mm.
two was Diamond Life. Number three was Make It Big. Number four was 1100 Bel Air Place, Julio Iglesias. Remember him? And
Oh,
number
yes.
five, the wonderful Red Sails in the Sunset.
Oh,
Thank
I
God,
love
an
that album.
Australian act. So,
Mm.
what do you think of the Australian top 10 or the 3XY? Pretty
Yeah, you know, maybe I'm being a little parochial here, but I think it might be the strongest one of the three. So,
well, yeah. All right, Bicycle Legs, wonderful having. I think we'll just do this as an annual event. This is just
yep,
counting down the Christmas charts of 1984. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Christmas. Please
yeah,
like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Check out Bicycle Legs. He's done this wonderful show about naughty
yeah.
Christmas
Delightfully
songs.
inappropriate Christmas songs. Yeah.
Absolutely. Some songs that I've never heard before. So wonderful curation. Did that take you a long time to pull together that list?
But again, I probably took it from those 13 Christmas CDs that I've made over the years. So I had the songs there. It was just a case of whittling them down.
Anyway, everyone, have a wonderful Christmas, New Year. Plenty of shows from Rock Daydream Nation and Bicycle Legs, and all the best, and stay safe, and cheers.
Merry
Cheers.
Christmas.